Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Hello, friends. I have a treat of an episode for you today. So I haven't had any interviews on the show in a little while since I've been on maternity leave. It's been mostly solo episodes. But today I'm coming back with some guests, and not one guest, but 7 incredible guests that you're about to get to hear from. So these women are sharing ways they have help with their kids, their business, and their household, all while running a successful business. And this is the kind of stuff that I feel like people just don't talk about enough. So I'm really excited that we're talking about it today. And before I play the episode and tell you a little bit more about it, I know many of you might be first-time podcast listeners right now. So I want to say a big welcome to the Breakthrough Brand podcast. I'm really glad you're here. And if you don't know me, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a mama to an almost 5-month-old baby boy. I'm a website designer and I'm a business coach. And my main thing is I have a shop with Show It website templates. And these are gorgeous pre-made websites you can purchase and then DIY your way to a very custom feeling website at that template price tag. And it's funny, when I was like thinking about how to introduce myself here, I was looking through all the women you're about to hear from. And actually 5 of the 7 people you're about to hear tips from are actually M-Shop customers. So that's really fun. It's funny how that worked out. And I also, in addition to my website templates, I have an online course for designers that's called Booked Out Designer. And that's where I teach brand and website designers how to run a successful, profitable, in-demand business. So that's a little bit about me. Now let me tell you about this episode. So this idea came about while I was on maternity leave. Adam and I would go on walks basically every day for one of Colin's naps. I would wear him in the Solly baby wrap carrier. He would sleep the whole time, and we'd walk around our neighborhood, walk to a coffee shop nearby, and just have the best conversations about just different elements of our life. But also a big one was like, how are we about to do this thing of parenthood as both working parents and with me running a business and taking care of Colin, and what's like our game plan here. And one thing, and there's so much to figure out with that, right? Like so much to figure out. And as I was watching other business owning mamas, I like consistently was wondering, I would bring this up to Adam, like, how are they doing it all? Are they working a limited schedule? Is their baby in daycare? Do they have a nanny? Like what's happening there? Are they working all day? And then are they coming home and cooking dinner every night? Or is there like a hack for that? Are they also cleaning their houses? Like, do they have a day that's just dedicated to motherhood stuff? Or are they kind of mixing it all together? And I had so many of those questions. I know many of you probably wonder the same. And as I was telling all this to Adam, I was telling him, I'm like, people don't talk about this enough. Like, I wish more people were kind of sharing their secrets of doing motherhood and business well. And then he said, you should talk about it then. Like, interview someone, ask, like, you be the person to talk about the thing that you feel like isn't talked about enough. And so I was like, yes, I love that. Okay, I'm going to do it. Who do I want to ask these questions to? And I started typing into my notes app on my phone. And the list was long. I came up with like 20 people that I was like, I'd love to ask this stuff to, which you're going to be hearing from more guests on the subject of motherhood and business on another episode of this podcast in a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. But I made this list in my phone. And then I realized, instead of interviewing everyone individually, let's do a compilation episode. And I immediately went home, started working on the idea, as I do for when I have big ideas. And I started working the idea for this episode and then the one you'll hear in a few weeks. And so that's kind of how it came about. I wanted to talk about the thing that I feel like isn't talked about enough. Because balancing motherhood, balancing your household as a wife and a mom, and balancing your business, booking clients, running a team, all of that, it's a lot of work. We wear a lot of hats as women. So you're about to hear these women's top tips for balancing, getting help, doing it all. You're going to hear about families where both parents are working full time or where their spouse is also a business owner, and different levels of help in that way. You'll hear about nannies and different ways to get help with your kids like school and daycare, and alternatively, what it looks like to have your child at home full time with you while you're also working full time. You'll also hear from moms who run their business and work another job or used to work another job. You'll hear about going between work mode and mom mode and how to do that mindset wise. You'll hear about outsourcing household things as well as outsourcing things in your business. You're going to hear about growing your team, which I love, so you can spend more time with your kids. You're going to hear about maternity leaves, about organizing your calendar as a family, about going back to work and getting childcare help when you don't have family nearby and kind of what that looks like. You'll also hear about changes that happen as your kids get older. So for those of us who are moms of babies, it really is different in different seasons of motherhood. So we'll have some talk about that. And so much more. That's just a little sample. So you guys are going to love this episode. I love this episode. I've already learned so much through listening to it. I actually just listened through to the whole thing right before recording this intro. And I'm really excited for you to get to hear it as well. So without further ado, here are top tips for getting help with your kids, your business, and your household.
Hey guys, this is Callie Ammons, and I am a certified Enneagram life coach and also a realtor in the state of Colorado. So this is crazy. I decided to pursue a second business after having my baby, which sometimes I look back and I'm like, what the heck? But it has been a wild and amazing year, and definitely have not done it by myself. So I have a son, his name is Fletch, and he will be 1 on December 30th. So probably is 1 by the time the show airs. And it has been an awesome year, but definitely just a whole new season trying to navigate motherhood and running a business. So my Enneagram business is the first business that I have really built up. And gosh, I lose track, but I think I've had that for 3 years now. And then real estate is new as of 2021. And I am so career driven. I love business, and mostly because of just being able to help people. I think it's so cool when we get to use the gifts that God has given us to better this world. And so just through different business avenues, I've been able to do that. So when I had Fletch at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, it definitely was new in trying to navigate how in the world do you still work and be a mom and recover and take care of your house, and just the list goes on and on. But that's the thing, is that my work schedule and mom life, my relationship with my husband, everything had to change, not in a bad way, but just having to pivot a little bit. So just to share a little bit of insight of what my work week looks like, is that it looks so different. My husband and I do have a full-time nanny that works for us. We are about to transition to putting our son into a Montessori school. So it's kind of like daycare, I guess, but it's more like intentional learning in school. And the whole nanny situation has been amazing for us the whole first year, but we were ready to put Fletch around other kids and just in a little bit more intentional learning environment. So we're making that change. And that is how I have the time and freedom to be able to work, is through outside help. My husband and I don't have family here. And so we knew that in order to have help with Fletch, we would definitely have to hire people for that. And so we have gone through 2 different nannies. Both of them have been incredible. And then about to make that transition to Montessori school. And for us, my husband is also a business owner. And so we do have flexibility with his schedule. I'm just getting super practical of what our week looks like. So basically we had a set schedule for our nanny. And then outside of that, if I was showing houses or had an interview or my husband had something come up, we just really communicate. And at the beginning of the week on Sunday, we really go through our entire schedule for the week and talk about who's taking Fletch when will we all be together as a family, when is the nanny going to be with him, and just orchestrate our schedules. And for Kramer and I, we both are in a season of scaling our businesses, experiencing a lot of growth, and it's really exciting. But with that has felt like our businesses are so important. So Kramer will be like, I need to go, I need to work. Can you take Fletch? Well, I'm feeling the exact same thing. And so in our marriage, we have definitely been challenged to rise to a higher level of just better communication, for sure, with being parents and just navigating this new season. One of the questions that I was going to answer is, how do you go between mom mode and work mode well? And honestly, I don't feel like I am good at this. I can really struggle with this of kind of shutting off, mainly from going from work to mom mode. Sometimes tasks aren't completed, or there's still projects on my mind, or I'm brainstorming, and this is something I have to be really intentional about to switch my mind. And I guess the biggest thing that helps me is just leaving my phone and computer aside. If I'm trying to work or I'm, basically multitasking, I don't switch very well. And I can tell that Fletch can feel that. I definitely already mentioned the type of help that we have. So it really is just our nanny, and it's my husband helping me out. We have had our house cleaned one time by a professional, and that was amazing. So we definitely might keep doing that. Another thing, I guess, food wise, is I don't like cooking, and just time wise, it's a challenge for sure to find time to cook. And so we actually use HelloFresh right now. There's been different seasons where we've just done takeout food a lot. So we're trying to figure out kind of our rhythm. But right now, HelloFresh is working really well for our family, and just taking out that time and energy of having to like plan what to eat and everything. It's just there, and I can cook it and we're good to go. I think one of the biggest tips I have, essentially to myself, but also to you, because I'm still so new in this, is don't be afraid to ask for help. And then number 2 is don't be afraid to make changes. So I mentioned we've gone through 2 nannies. We're about to switch to Montessori school. I think there's been different months, rhythms, systems, ideas that Kramer and I have worked really good for us, but sometimes it changes. Sometimes you have to pivot, and you can get great ideas even from this podcast of other people, but you have to figure out what works best for you, your family, your personality, your budget, like where you're at location wise, all of that. And so if something's not working, just tweak it and keep tweaking it until you figure out the right rhythm. And what I'm also learning about having a baby is that they change so much. And so you also have to adapt and change. And if we're so stuck in our ways, I have found, at least for myself, it's really shocking and frustrating. You know, there might be a week where Fletch is sick, and so I'm going to the doctor way more, and I have to change my work schedule. And just really trying to hold my time open-handed and letting God direct me and doing what's best for my family and for my business, but being in constant communication with my husband so we're on the same page, and then just pivoting and changing whatever is and isn't working. I hope that helps.
Hi, everyone. I am Kelsea Buddo, the owner and designer behind Conley by Kelsea. We do brand and show it web design for creatives. This is also how I know Elizabeth, through the Show It World. I'm also the creator of the Conley Kit, which is a template-based course to equip designers with everything they need for a more streamlined, confident client process. In addition to juggling all of these businesses, I am a wife and a mom to a 1-year-old little boy, Nolan. And I'm also expecting my second child, and will be a mom of 2 in July. Before Nolan was born, I really wrestled with fear of becoming a working mom. I'm an Enneagram 1, Wing 2, which if you're familiar with the Enneagram, you know that means I am a very task-oriented, overachiever, and a big-time people pleaser, which has been a great recipe for business, but not so much for my own personal work-life balance. From the moment I started my business in 2018, I would find myself working from about 8 a.m. in the morning until 11 p.m. literally every night, even weekends, because that's how I thought it had to be. I was so scared of setting boundaries with my clients or outsourcing help, because at the time my business was my baby. And that obviously all changed once I found out I was pregnant. I knew that I was going to have to take some time off to spend time with the little one and heal and recover and all of that. And I didn't know what to do. So my sweet husband, who pretty much doubles as my CFO most days, sat me down and helped me map out the financial side of this, what it would look like to take time off, but also what it would look like to grow my team potentially. I, again, was super resistant to it, but this kind of forced me to make that decision. And it was the best decision I've ever made. For me, I wasn't ready to just like shut things down entirely. So I was willing to bring on a junior designer, my first employee. She's actually an intern who had been with me for a while, so I trusted her and knew I could pass off some stuff. I also hired an amazing VA to assist with some admin and systems help during leave, and both of them are still with me today. So that system that I put in place during maternity leave has continued, and it's been amazing for just balancing all that is being a working mom now. Since then, I've also added 3 other team members, which is super crazy. It's been life-changing though, like I said. So this is my first big tip to any working mom who has a small business. Even if you're just getting started, it can be so helpful to have any ounce of help, whether that's a VA, whether that's just a part-time intern, someone who is not you, that can really help you and assist you in certain scenarios. And this may not even be a business. If you outsource in your personal life, like outsource the cleaning of your house or the groceries or something like that, anything that's going to open you up for the spaces of your day that matter and renew you. For me, again, I love working. I'm an admitted workaholic. So I wanted to make sure I was outsourcing pieces of my business that were not the fun parts of work. And now that allows me to actually design and spend time in the creative industry, which is why I started my business in the first place. So my working hours are really devoted to the things that fill me up in business and not so much the things that drain me. That way, when I get home at the end of the day or I'm spending time with my family, I am not exhausted from those parts of business that are not as rewarding. So that's my first tip. In regards to leave, I gave myself about 10 weeks of leave, and we actually do not have any family near us. We live in Alabama. Our families are out of state. And so when I came back, we needed to find daycare, right? Or some sort of solution. And we found a daycare that we loved. It was super hard at first, but what I really, really appreciate about daycare is that, one, it forces all of us to get out of the house. I know that's not for everyone. A lot of people like to work from home. For me, it's nice to have a separation of home and personal. So we leave the house, and then at 4 p.m., I pick up my child, and it's time to go home. And that's our family time, and it's dedicated to that. Again, there's set boundaries. I can't really extend the hours of daycare, so it just provides that hard stop that I've kind of always needed to maintain balance, and that's been really life-changing for me too. So even if for you that means getting an office space outside of your house, something to just separate the two, I think is really important, or has been really important for me mentally. I think in navigating these waters the last year of becoming a mom, my biggest tip, which kind of encompasses all of this, is to find your system of checks and balances, right? For me, like I said, that looks like still dreaming, still growing my business. We added the Conley kit in May. My son was born in December. So a couple months after he was born, we launched this whole endeavor. So still growing it, but adding team members along the way that really makes sure that my workload is manageable for my family, doesn't require me to be up all night, but also refills me. And this may look different for you, but what I do know is that we have an amazing online business community. Obviously, this podcast is a testament to that, full of working moms who have amazing systems, and we are all here to help cheer you on in this season. It's a tough transition, but it can be done.
Hey y'all, I'm Ellen. I am a photographer and motherhood content creator based in Alabama, and I also work as a retail pharmacist in my day job. I'm a mama to 2 girls, Abby and Maddie, and they are 3 and 5 years old. Y'all, life with little kids is crazy. I know a lot of moms will relate to that feeling. I've found that as a working mom balancing multiple passions and projects, a lot of times we can make it look like we're seamlessly balancing everything. I promise that is not what is happening behind the scenes. My best tip for managing motherhood and business and life is to change your mindset. A little background on my personality, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs will relate. I'm one of those people that likes to take care of all the things because I worry that if I don't, it won't be done right. I won't know all the details, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're a person like this, you know exactly what I'm talking about and you're nodding your head right along with me. And there was a point where this mindset applied to all aspects of my life. It's so easy to get burnout this way. And I want you to ask yourself this. If you're doing all the things, are you really doing them all well? So a while back, I heard an analogy that compared balancing motherhood and work tasks and all the things on our plate to a swinging pendulum. A pendulum doesn't stay in place forever, But sometimes there's a big push of momentum that swings the pendulum a bit further in one direction. Maybe it's something major like the birth of a child or a marriage, or something not as big but still important like a new product launch. That pendulum swings one way and you need to dedicate more of your energy to that one area of your life, and the other tasks, they're still going to be there, but they're going to have to get taken care of in a different way. I remember hearing this and a light going off in my head like, I don't have to burn the candle at both ends. It is okay to do what it takes to make things easier. This is a season, and one day the pendulum is going to swing the other way, and I can dedicate more of my energy to my other interests and tasks. It really helped to change my mindset away from I need to keep my hands on everything to keep things running smoothly to it's important to offload tasks that I can by getting some help and focusing on what's most important to me right now. You guys, honestly, motherhood and life is a group project. Let the group contribute to the group work. For me, that means taking some shortcuts and using hacks to make our life easier where we can. We have an amazing nanny that comes to help with childcare, mostly taking care of the kids on the days that I go to work at my pharmacist job, but sometimes she'll come on my off days so that I can shoot content, edit, email, and plan sessions. We use a meal delivery service to cover dinner meal planning most nights of the week. We use grocery delivery so that I don't have to carry two wild kids around in the grocery store aisles. At home, my husband handles many of the home management tasks like bill paying, home organization, and the dreaded never-ending laundry. Y'all, change the mindset that you need to be doing it all, that you have to expend all of your energy day after day. Recognize the places in your life that you can hack and make things easier, and then just do it. Just go for it. Don't feel guilty that you can't do it all, because honestly, I promise you, no one is doing all the things.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas-to-be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravy.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravy.com/CHM. Now back to the episode.
Hi, my name is Amber Housley. I'm a marketing strategist and business coach, helping you create a thriving business and a joy-filled lifestyle. One of the hallmarks of the Amber Housley brand is that we truly believe in helping ourselves, helping other women build thriving businesses, but without sacrificing your family time and your personal time. So this episode I am really, really excited about. So I am a mama of 2 little ones. I want to say little, though they're kind of medium-sized now. I've been married for 15 years, and my daughter is in the 2nd grade and my son is in the 7th grade. One unique thing to know about me is that I've been growing and building my business for more than a decade now, and through all of my children's lives. On top of that, I have worked full-time corporate careers while having a side business, while also being a young new mama. all the way to what I am today, which is a full-time entrepreneur. My children do attend school full-time, and then they come home after school, which is kind of when the afternoon begins for me. When I like to think I put my mama hat on, it's usually at the very end of the day. That's something that is unique to me, is that I've always had full-time childcare for the most part. So because I was so accustomed to working a full-time corporate career, and my husband as well, we didn't have any family nearby or the luxury of other people to help with childcare. So our kids from a very young age, from 8 weeks old, had attended full-time daycare. That's something that I grew up as well with 2 working parents, and he did as well. So it wasn't anything unusual for us. It was something very normal and easy to go into. Obviously, we get a lot of flexibility with our schedules now. My husband does work from home, even though he is still in a full-time corporate type position, but we have a lot of different luxuries we have now as a full-time entrepreneur for myself and for him working from home. And so we're able to tag team it in special little ways. But of course, we have the luxury of that they're older now. So when they come home, they're a lot easier to handle than when they were toddlers and infants, of course. And so we're able to go and kind of let them take care of themselves in some ways. It feels so strange to be saying that as a mom, especially if you are not in that season of life. You're like, Amber, tell me how soon I can get to that point. I promise you that if I had one tip for you right now, I would tell you is the season that you're in isn't going to last forever. And that's a good thing, right? There's so many spectacular things that happen at every season of motherhood and of their childhood. And just being open to change and flexibility in changing how this dynamic will work as a working mom. Like I think back to when I was in a certain season, and I wished for the days when I was a full-time entrepreneur and I could do whatever I wanted, right? And so I just want to tell you that day will come. It'll come in sweet little packages. I know for me, one of the most important things I wanted when the kids were younger is I was like, I really want to be the mom that shows up at the field trip. My mom never could do that. Like there was no flexibility. And I would also say as a child of the 80s and 90s, parents didn't really go to field trips back then. But for me, it was really important to do that. And so I wanted to be that person. And so I would just encourage you that don't try to be everything and all the things that you might see as what a working mama role could be. And when you can fit in that time of motherhood, like pick the things that you think are most important to you and then go with that. All right, so I wanted to share another tip for you on how we, over the last, our oldest is almost 13 now, how we've been doing this. One of the best things that we've done is used Google Calendar, used a digital calendar to our advantage because we are digital calendar type people. We send invitations for everything that has going on in the family. So we have reoccurring meetings, to be there when bus drop off is, for practices, for all of their sports and activities, for spring breaks, for when school is out. When I get the school calendar for the year, which is usually comes out about a year in advance, I'm already, in the future going and blocking off and sending invites to both of our calendars. So everyone knows what's going on at one time. I found when I tried to keep it all to myself, it just felt so much pressure and burden to keep up with it all. And it just feels really nice to lighten the load, to share that, even if it's just an information basis of just knowing, hey, this is when spring break is, this is when this is, and all of the details that goes along with whatever that activity, whatever things we need to bring, adding travel time on how long it will take to get to, the sports field or whatever it may be. Just that has been really, really helpful for us. I'd also say one of the best things that has been for me is in terms of having kind of some flexibility in my days but making those boundaries. And so for me, Mondays and Fridays in my business, I try not to have meetings or calls. Those are times actually where I have more flexibility and that I can do kind of the everyday mom and home stuff. And that doesn't mean that I'm with my kids or anything, but it means that I can go and do errands or appointments or groceries or anything. And I'm not using up my weekends to do that, where when we're doing family stuff, that's what I found. I was trying to fit so much into this certain amount of time that I started to get smarter and said, hey, Mondays and Fridays, the start of the week and the end of the week, I like to be able to start those or end the week kind of like slow, a little bit easier, and just really lean into that and make Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday my heavy call, my live coaching, or any kind of appointments that I have from a coaching standpoint. All of my programs, I'm delivering things on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for the most part. My next tip, of course, is outsourcing the things that you are not really good at, or your time could be better spent elsewhere. So for me, one of the first things that we did outsource in my business at the very beginning, when I think about as we started to make a profit and make an income, in addition to the salary I was already earning in my corporate job, I was like, what things can I do to help replace my time or my energy, or, help bring down my stress? And so for me, as a working mom, as a business owner, as trying to be a good wife and a good mom to my kids, like the house cleaning part was one of the things I wasn't super great at. And I wasn't really finding a lot of joy in. And I knew that there's others that could bless me with their gifts, right? And that I could use that time elsewhere. I could also make a return on investment several times over with that time that I would have spent doing those things in my house that I'm not as skilled at. And I will tell you that that has been one of the best things that we've ever done. And I think a lot of people are resistant to it at first, but once you realize how wonderful it is to go and come home to a clean house, you'll be like, oh man, why didn't I do this sooner? And of course, the typical, when it comes to meals, and I've gone through different seasons where I've ordered meals, or there's different meal service companies that you can order meals for the week from. All of those are really great, but then I started to realize that I actually find cooking and preparing food with a lot of creativity, and I get a lot of rest and joy out of it. And so it's one of my favorite ways to decompress after the workday is to do those things. And so I learned certain seasons, yes, outsource the meals, outsource some of that food planning and prep. And then some seasons, it feels really good to keep that in-house.
Hey y'all, my name's Emily, and I am the copywriter and owner at Emily Writes Well, and the proud mom of an almost 4-year-old little girl named Charlotte. My best tip for working and being a mom is really to, one, give yourself a lot of grace and stop expecting things to run perfectly. And two, to share the load with your partner if you have one. So I ran a full-time business working 30 hours a week while my husband was working, a 40-hour a week work from home job for over a year while our daughter was home with us full-time during pandemic times. Her preschool was closed and she was just with us all day. It was just the three of us. And it was really challenging, but we found that when we worked together and really learned how to be truly flexible is when things worked the best. So if you do not have access to consistent childcare, my best advice is to make your business work for you. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what I mean by that. One, I stopped taking as many one-on-one calls as I had been taking before. I was booking a ton of one-on-one strategy sessions, doing a lot of discovery calls in person, just, camera on Zoom. And that wasn't working because I did not have an actual big chunk of time where I knew my daughter was going to be napping or was going to be with her dad or was going to be otherwise occupied. And so that was really stressful. So I had to change the way I ran things. I started booking projects without requiring in-person discovery calls. I stopped doing strategy sessions for a season and really opened up my calendar to where my projects were mostly based on things I could do at any point without having to have a schedule with someone else. And that made a huge difference. So that was really me shifting my business, right? The beauty of running your own business is that you can shift things to actually work with your life. The other thing that my husband and I were able to do was look at our days and see where we both had bandwidth. So for my husband, the mornings were really busy. It made no sense for him to try to do anything in the morning because he just had back-to-back meetings. His job started at 7:30. I could start a lot later and I didn't even have to have mornings, right? I could be in charge of our daughter in the morning, and then he was able to block off about a 2-hour chunk before she went down for nap time. And so from 11 to 1, he was in charge, which meant I actually had from 11 to 3 because she napped from 1 to 3. So that gave me a really good part of the day. Now, that did not happen every day. It wasn't always that much time, but it really gave me some consistent time to sit down and really focus on things. We also found ourselves moving just different responsibilities where we were, maybe my husband was cooking dinner and I was working a little bit later during the day, or we were repurposing meals. Like, let's make sure every dinner we make has leftovers. So we're saving time and having dinner prepared, and I'm able to, work longer. And those are really some of the tangible ways that we made it work. But I will say the most important thing is just to have grace for yourself and realize that being a working mom who is in charge of your kids and has a child home with you is not going to be easy, but there are bright spots, right? And just trying to keep that time and having clearly, like, instead of trying to just work all day and mom all day and feeling like you're failing at both, having as clearly defined work times as possible will really help you just energetically and help you feel more focused. So when you're with your kiddos and you're not trying to work. And then when you're working, you're able to just really focus and not feel like you're trying to parent at the same time and doing neither well. I hope that's helpful. Remember just to give yourself all the grace in the world, work with your partner, make your business fit your life and not the other way around.
Hello, everybody. Okay, I am Jess Jordana, and if we haven't met before, I am the CEO at Jess XO Copywriting and the founder of the Promptlet Shop. Very simply put, I help women in business turn their passion into words that people actually get. And at the time of this recording, I have a 7-month-old. I'm a brand new mom, and I'm honestly doing my very best to traverse this lifelong journey of, I'm doing air quotes, figuring it out as a mom and as a business owner. And I really do feel like even after just 7 months, I know that this is going to be a lifelong journey and that different seasons are going to require different things of me, different things of my family, different things of my business. And I think just understanding that from the get-go really, really helps to get you in the mindset of adaptability. So that has been really, really key for me. So I have a few tips that I want to share with you guys, all with the caveat that I have been a mom for 7 months and I have done my very best, but I do have a few tips that have really helped me. And I hope that they will help other moms in business too, or if you're considering becoming a mom, or even if you are just looking to have a little bit more balance in business. So I heard this tip from somebody on Instagram, and I thought it was really interesting. I don't abide by it completely, but it's that you should not do anything while your baby is asleep that you can do while they're awake. So that means laundry. That means maybe even cooking if you can like babyware and cook while you have them. Maybe that means dishes or vacuuming or like little household things that you can bring your baby along with you. Now, I know that that's not the easiest thing ever. And sometimes it's really hard when you're like trying to accomplish things and your baby is crying or fussy or really heavy or whatever. And you're just tired and you wish that you could just get all those things done really quickly while they're asleep. But I think the crux of that advice is that it really is going to fill you up more if you're doing things while they're asleep that you absolutely can't do while they're awake. So that means working, and that means reading a book, and that means doing journaling if you like to do that. I like to do that. That means really all of the things that we need to do to run our businesses that we really feel like we don't have time to do at all whenever we are watching our kids. So I think that that is a good piece of advice to kind of like take with a grain of salt and just be able to filter those things by what can I do when they're asleep and what can I do when they're awake. Tip number 2 is advice for going between mom mode and work mode. My number one piece of advice would be
to decide ahead of time what you need to do during whatever time you have available. So that means really writing out specifically your tasks, not just like write content, but like write Instagram post about headlines or something like that, very, very specific, so that once you do have a small nugget of time, you're not spending your time spinning your wheels trying to figure out what it is you can do with your time, because that wastes a lot of time. And that is the thing that makes us feel overwhelmed. That is the thing that makes us feel like we don't have enough time, because we start running through all of the things we have to do instead of having a list and just picking one thing off of that list and getting it done, or two things or whatever. So decide ahead of time, whether that's maybe on a Sunday, deciding for your week, like very specific tasks that have to get done. That is what I do in prepping for my week. And it's really, really helpful when I have an hour for her nap and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do boom, 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 get these things done. And I can cross that off my list. So I hope that those tips help. Again, caveat, I've only been a mom for 7 months, but I know that we need to all be in this together in terms of momming and businessing. And I fully believe that it is something that can make our businesses even better. And I have seen that in my own life too. So wishing you all the best. Thanks so much for including me.
Hey friends, I'm Madison Brown, the owner of Madison Dearly Bookkeeping. I've been Elizabeth's bookkeeper for almost 2 years now. I have 2 kiddos, Sadie Bell, who is 3, and Nolan, who is 1. And I am married to my husband, Dale, who graduated dental school last year and is now working at a local practice here in Minnesota. As I let you in on our lives and share some guidance here, I just want you to know that we are not perfect in the Brown household. We are still learning. All of these tips and tricks are what make me feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. They could look so different for you and your family, and I honestly probably could learn so much from you if you were to tell me your tips and tricks too. So a little bit of background for us. We just moved to Minnesota from Houston, Texas, and it took us a minute to get the kids into daycare here. So they are actually at 2 different daycares because each of them had differing availability. But it works for us because Nolan's daycare is 5 minutes from our house, and Sadie's daycare is literally in the same parking lot as Dale's work. So it just works for our family right now. We're hoping to get them into the same daycare eventually, but it hasn't always been like that. We have had seasons of our lives where they were going with grandparents during the day, or they didn't have daycare, so I worked while they were at home with me. It's taken a lot to get us here where we are able to afford full-time daycare and just make it work for our lives and for our family. So as I'm giving you these tricks, just keep all of that in mind. So my biggest piece of advice is creating habits and routines. We have a very specific morning routine that helps us get out the door on time, but to go back even further, we have a very specific evening routine that helps keep the mornings running smoothly. So in the evening, we've got bath, book, bed, where we're giving our kids a bath, we're reading a book, really increasing that melatonin, using all the lavender lotions to make sure that we all get a good night's sleep. But in addition to that, we are laying out the kids' clothes the night before. I'm checking the calendar, making sure if they have any theme days or anything that they need at school, that I'm putting that all together in a bag by the door so it's easy to grab before we are walking out in the mornings. And if it's a Monday, we have to pack our bags with an extra pack of diapers, extra wipes, clean blankets, and loveys for nap time, and their snow outfit and boots. That's probably a little bit more detail than you need to know, but that is my actual list that I've created that I check off every Sunday night. In addition to getting the kids prepped and ready, getting all of their stuff in the evenings, I'm laying out my clothes as well to make sure that I am more likely to go to the gym if my gym clothes are laid out, and I'm more likely to just get dressed and ready for the day, which really increases my productivity. One thing that my mom did when I was younger that I really want to start implementing into my life is she would do the dishes and clean the kitchen after dinner time. And then she would actually set out all the things for breakfast the next day. So she had her pot, her bag of oatmeal, her measuring cup, the toaster, and the butter knife so that we could have a warm breakfast of oatmeal and butter toast. And that it was really easy for her to just throw together in the morning. So that's something that I really want to start just making a habit in my life. If we've done all these things in the evenings, the mornings should run really smooth. We wake the kids up, get their clothes on, make their beds, brush their hair and teeth, and it's just way less stressful if I've taken the time to do our evening routine and set everything out. It does not always go like this. Sometimes there is just pure chaos in the mornings, no matter what you do, but this is something that just really seems to help with me. When it comes to partner involvement, I would say that it's 50-50, but I genuinely try to make things easier for my husband to play along. So if I unload the dishwasher as often as I can, he is more willing to load the dishwasher and help with the dishes. If I set out clothes the night before, he doesn't have to rummage through the clean laundry to try to find a matching outfit. Because let's be honest, Sadie has gone to daycare with purple pants and a red and white striped shirt before, so I'm always going to be setting out the clothes from here on out. But we also just have really good communication between the two of us. So if there are times where I feel really depleted and really overwhelmed, I can communicate that to him and ask for him to just be a little bit more involved with the kids and with our lives. As far as balancing work life and mom life, two different analogies come to my mind, and I can honestly not take credit for either one of these. I don't know who the first one is by, who said it, who just talked about it, but I have held this so near and dear to my heart when it comes to balancing work life and mom life. There are glass balls and there are plastic balls, and when we are juggling, we have to figure out which is which. Our home life is not always glass and our work life is not always plastic. We might have glass work balls and we might have plastic home balls. So there are times where it might be more beneficial for me to just sit and be present with my kids instead of having to create and batch an entire month's worth of content. I really have to figure out which is which and act accordingly. The second analogy that I have is that classic, like when you're on an airplane and you put on your oxygen mask, you put yours on first, and then you help other people put on their oxygen mask. But Devon Franklin, I was listening to him on a podcast recently, and he explained this so well, and it made so much sense, that when you put on your oxygen mask first, it is actually not selfish. If you ran around and helped people with their oxygen masks first, you could probably only save 3 or 4 people. If you put your oxygen mask on first and then you help other people, you could probably save 10 people, 10 plus people, as many people as you like to, because you are fully equipped to help them live. And so it's actually not a selfish thing if we have strict boundaries and strict me time to be able to pour into ourselves as mothers and wives, to really be able to focus even better on our clients and our family, our children, our husbands, etc. Those have just both stuck with me, and I really wanted to share them. Again, I cannot take credit for those because they're so profound. But the last thing that I'll leave you with is to just let go of what you thought it would be like. Because when you become a mom, you change, your world changes. You have these expectations of what you think it might be like or what you really, really desire for it to be like. But the most important thing is to cultivate your adaptability. Every single day, every single week, every single month is just something new that's being thrown at you, and you need to just remain adaptable to what your kids need from you, or what your work needs, or what you need from yourself, to just be really open and aware and honest with the things that you need in your life. You are doing wonderfully, Mama. You are enough. You are not alone. We are just all trying to figure out this motherhood together, and I hope that this was helpful for you.
Okay, that's it, guys. Aren't all those tips amazing? I hope you enjoyed hearing from these sweet business owner friends as much as I did. Now, as I close this episode real quick, I'm actually not going to share a tip. You've heard so many good ones already. And I plan to eventually record a solo episode sometime this year where I share what I'm learning from working while my baby is literally in the other room. Right now, as I'm recording this, I actually was starting to record and I had to start over now because Colin woke up from his nap and I had to feed him and I did all that. And then now I'm back in here working. And then like an hour from now, actually more like 30 minutes from now, I'm going to leave to take him to the pediatrician. So it's a lot of going back and forth between mom mode and work mode today, and figuring it out as I go. And so I do want to eventually share with you guys like how me and Adam are making this all work for us. But I hope this episode was enjoyable for you. If you loved it, if you got something from it, please share with a friend, share with another working mama friend who you think this would help. And I'd love to hear from you. You can leave a review for the podcast and tell me what you thought of this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then stay tuned in a few weeks, another episode with a bunch more business owner friends who are going to be sharing about productivity tips as working moms. So stay tuned for that. And then I also will link in the blog post for this episode to some other podcasts that might interest you that are about things like how I plan my maternity leave, interviews with other people about maternity leaves, pregnancy, and other motherhood topics. So I will link to those if you want to check those out. And thanks so much for listening all the way to the end. I hope you feel encouraged. You've got this, mama.